Boy, everyone sure is excited to talk about regenerative ranching and regenerative farming, this new concept sweeping the web. Except this new concept that we're cheering for is being implemented by the people that are supposed to have been doing this stuff from the beginning. You know, the people that are in touch with the earth, the 5th and 6th generation farmers, the people that know what they're doing because they've been doing it for so long, and yet here we are in 2020, almost 2021, and this is a new concept of not just raping the earth to its tipping point. So we already have some pretty blatant signs that this is a bunch of BS. Since regenerative ranching uses best practices, why weren't these people using best practices in the first place? There's two possible answers, and that was ignorance, that they really didn't know what they were doing the whole time, or they were just trying to extract as much from the land as possible in order to earn a buck, in order to get over that profit margin, which is increasingly harder to get over because it's incredibly unsustainable to be in animal agriculture. Another blaring warning sign about these people who are patting themselves on the back for working with Mother Nature and getting back to the way things are supposed to be is that they're leaving out nature. Hello, Rancher Bob. Would you like some antelope? Would you like some deer? Would you like some elk on your land? No, thank you. We got our own animals. We got our domesticated livestock. Fuck your native grazers, fuck your native herbivores, and especially fuck your native predators. We have the animals that we created over years of breeding and brought over from Europe. They have absolutely no place in nature. They have no role in nature, and they do not benefit nature, but we continue to breed them because that's our living. Extraction, exploitation, and then selling the flesh on the market. Working with nature. You've got to be kidding. These are the same people responsible for the eradication of our native wildlife. They're the reason that we can't bring back native predators. They want absolutely nothing to do with natural process, except, of course, in the event that their animals get to graze upon a few native plants. Speaking of native plants, how many of these people are actively going out and introducing perennial native plants? Does not work. Why? Because their fucking unnatural livestock destroy these things. When you have your studies and your little fake documentaries that herald cattle grazing as something good for the environment, and they show that when you have cattle there, good things happen, they're leaving out a really important detail. What's actually happening, if you see any positive signs, is that they reduced the amount of cattle grazing that had been taking place before. It's not that they introduced cattle and things got better. What we have here are people who exploited the land, who overgrazed, and that finally came back to bite them in the ass, and they couldn't deny it any longer. But now everyone's talking about, well, if we do regenerative grazing, you mean not overgrazing? You mean not destroying the land completely? You mean taking a few of the cattle away from there? Wow, you're such good people. You're so in touch with the earth. Looking great, cows. Keep up the fine work. The other aspect of this is that they force the cattle to move. You know, they force rotational grazing. Well, if this was natural, you wouldn't have to force it, because the native herbivores do move. They don't sit there and just eat everything down to the ground and under the ground to where it doesn't come back. But once again, here we have people that we're supposed to be applauding because they're finally forcing their cows to move instead of just letting them sit there and wipe out everything. Thank you so much. You're so in touch with the earth. You got that billionaire asshole up here in California who has no business raising cattle whatsoever, but he has a hobby ranch. And this went all over the internet because, hey, look at this beautiful land where we have cattle. And look, there's actually plants and things growing too. That's because he's not doing it as a business trying to turn a buck. He unleashed a few cattle going through there. And once again, what do you think would have happened if you'd have used native herbivores? No, thank you. Not interested in helping the wildlife, not interested in giving them some habitat or seeing what would happen if we had some antelope or elk or deer, etc. No, fuck the wildlife. I'm a hobby rancher. I'm here to tell the world that cattle are the key to our future. Do you know how goddamn stupid that is? I know you're gonna go and look at all these fucking papers that have been written, funded by Animal Ag, by the way. Gee, I can't imagine if those results are skewed at all. Just use your eyes, people. Use your common sense. You're literally saying that nature had it wrong, that biodiversity was stupid and nature should have never gone down that path. Fuck bears, fuck wolves, fuck elk. All we ever really needed was cattle. Look how great the land looks. You gotta be kidding me, people. Open your eyes. That does not look like good land. Because of religious beliefs, there are a lot of arguments about exactly when humans came into existence and then what version of our modern selves we're going to consider humans. Some date the earliest forms of humans back to 6 million years ago, while what is considered modern humans started around 200,000 years ago. And then, of course, you have people who say that humans, as well as everything else, magically started with a wave of the wand by God exactly 5,000 years ago. Now, however long you want to say humans have been around in total, I think we can all agree that we haven't been around in the numbers that we are until very, very, very recent history. Like, even if we took the 5,000 year idea of humans existing, you know, the Industrial Revolution was a blip on the map in even that timeline. Point being that there was a very long period of time on Earth where animals hadn't been completely eradicated by humans because there weren't that many of us doing the eradication. Point being, there was a shitload of animals. How many exactly is hard to say because we just didn't really seem to care about those numbers until roughly 100 years ago when the amounts that we were killing were shocking enough that we started counting those. But if you know, a couple of quick examples, 98% of grizzly bears were wiped out in a 100-year period of time. Lions were reduced from 200,000 100 years ago to modern day estimates of around 20,000. We're talking about globally. That's fewer people that live in this fucking shithole suburb that I live in right now. So what was happening to the Earth back then? There were all these animals, millions and millions of species, uninhibited in their populations by human oppression. And yet the Earth didn't look like shit. They were all eating each other in this beautiful system. A system. That's the point. There was a system. So there's somewhere around 7 billion of us. That's a lot. There's only one vertebrate in existence that there are more of. And that's chickens. 18 billion. That's not a wild animal. That means 18 billion slave animals raised only to be killed for humans. There are 1.4 billion cattle and 1.1 billion sheep. I'm sorry, the brown rat. I forgot the brown rat. One vertebrate that probably outnumbers us, although people haven't been able to come up with an actual number on that. And guess what rats come along with? Humans. Once again, not a system, but a breakdown of a system caused by us breaking down the system. Now, of course, cattle are bigger than we are, so in terms of biomass, even there are more of us, they outweigh us in terms of total biomass on the planet. So by weight, by biomass, wild animals only make up 4% of mammals on the planet. It takes a lot of nerve. No, let me change that to arrogance and stupidity to reduce the rest of the planet's wild mammals down to 4% and then say that what we need are more livestock, which are currently at 60%. The sad state of the planet, the current condition that it is in, coincides with our reduction of wild animals and wild places and our increase of domesticated livestock. Again, how is it that Earth was beautiful, green, and lush and teeming with life when all the species were out there killing each other? It was a system. We now are in a monocultured system in which only us and our food is allowed to exist. And we're pretending that we are back to nature while we let our domesticated animals go into what is left of nature.